Look at this great fantasy world your game master has come up with. Don't you want to go explore it? Let's get started creating your character. You have a lot of choices when you create your character. Let's go step by step and create a character in 3 blocks: concept, building blocks, and details. These steps are in service of building your character sheet, which is your cheat sheet on how to run your character. But let's start from the beginning again. You have a lot of choices when it comes to your character. The most important are your ancestry, background, and class, or ABCs. Your ancestry is your character's species, like human, elf, or halfling. Your background is what your character did before they became an adventurer, like being a cook. Your class is your niche and abilities as an adventurer, like a fighter, wizard, or rogue. This is the fun part. Choose these in advance. These choices will affect your statistics when you play the game. Certain things like hit points, which represent how alive you are, and move speed, which shows how far you can move with a single action, will be directly affected by these 3 choices. Similarly, your size, senses, and languages. However, the fundamental mechanic behind Pathfinder 2e is your d20 roll. Anytime you do something difficult, you roll a d20, add a bonus based on your character's abilities, and try to meet or exceed a number that represents the difficulty of the task, called a DC. A lot of the game uses these rolls: your perceptiveness for traps and enemies, saving throws, which is how you avoid danger, your armor class, which is how difficult it is to hit you, your attacks, like how well you can use weapons, potentially your spellcasting, and your skills, which are just broad categories for all other adventuring tasks. How do you determine this bonus? Your bonus to your d20 roll in each of these tasks is based on a relevant attribute and your proficiency at that task, which is also related to your level. Your level is how powerful you are. A level 5 character is like an Olympian or an elite soldier. A level 20 character, max level, is next to godlyhood. You'll probably start at level 1. Your attributes are the most fundamental abilities of your character. They're innate skills without training. You have 6: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Put them all at 0 to start, then go through 4 stages to determine what they are. First, your class will give you a +1 boost to one attribute called your key attribute. You might be able to get to choose your key attribute, like a fighter being able to choose between strength or dexterity. Once you choose, you cannot change it. Your background will give you more +1 boosts. The only rule you need to follow is that all boosts from a single stage must go into different attributes. Ensure 1 boost is to your key attribute. Your ancestry will give you +1 boosts to some attributes, and maybe a -1 flaw. You might be able to choose where to put certain +1 boosts, but again, within this stage, they must all be different. Make sure you give a boost to your key attribute. If your key attribute is your ancestry's flaws, you can try this different attribute boost method instead. Finally, you get 4 free boosts. Get your key attribute to +4 and put them all in different attributes. Your proficiency in each category represent your character's training and skills. Your proficiency can be untrained, trained, expert, master, or legendary, which are each represented by a number. As long as you are at least trained in something, you add your level to the proficiency modifier. Now you see why level matters. A high-level creature is really good at stuff, at least the things they're trained in. A level 20 wizard might still be pretty bad at doing a backflip, but have an extremely high bonus to casting a spell that summons a gorilla. Go to your initial proficiencies in your class to start. You'll get a proficiency in several categories for your character sheet. Speaking of which, let's start filling it in. Time to go through our ABCs to determine additional proficiencies, abilities, or feats. A feat is like a molecule of character progression. There are ancestry feats, class feats, skill feats, and general feats. When you get to choose a feat, you get to customize your character in another way. Your ancestry will give you some hit points, move speed, size, senses, and languages. You'll also get an ancestry feat, which you can choose, and a heritage. A heritage is like a sub-ancestry, which will give you some special ability. Your background will probably give you a skill proficiency and a skill feat. If you ever get a trained proficiency in a skill you already have trained, you can usually just pick a different skill to become trained in. Do not automatically upgrade your proficiency to expert. Your class will give you more hit points plus your constitution, and also might give you several things that are impossible to generalize. You might get a special class ability like the ranger's hunt prey or the rogue's sneak attack. You might make another choice for a subclass like the ranger's hunter's edge, a rogue's racket, or the bard's muse, which will give you extra abilities, proficiencies, or bonuses. You might get a feat for free. You might be able to choose a class feat. If you're a spellcaster, you'll have a magic tradition, which usually tells you what kind of spells you can learn. Your spell attack bonus will usually be equal to your key attribute plus your spell casting proficiency, and your spell DC will be the same plus 10. If you're a prepared spellcaster, every morning your character will need to study your spells from a list. Some classes like druids can study their spells from the entire spell list of their tradition, whereas other classes like wizards and witches will need to study their spells from a smaller list, like a spellbook. Figure out what spells are on this smaller list now. If you're a spontaneous spellcaster, you'll have a spell repertoire. These are the spells you know permanently. Figure these out now. You can watch the video on spellcasters for more info. You might get focus spells. Focus spells are more like little magical tricks you can do that are unique to your class. You can watch the video on focus spells for more info. If you don't have any spellcasting, you're probably more concerned with your weapons. Let's go shopping. You start with 15 gold. Martial weapons are better than simple weapons, but only use them if you're at least trained in them. Then you can decide what to use based on how many hands they require and if you're a strength or dexterity based combatant. As in, if your strength or dexterity is higher. Dexterity weapons include ranged weapons and melee weapons with the finesse trait. These weapons use your dexterity attribute on the attack roll. Strength weapons include most other melee weapons, which use your strength attribute on the attack roll. You can also write down the weapon damage. That's how many hit points you can take away from the opponent on a hit. All melee weapons and thrown weapons add strength to their damage. The armor you wear determines your AC or armor class, which is how hard it is to hit you. Go to the armor table and find the dex cap that matches your own dexterity. Buy that armor if you're at least trained in that armor type. If you're not trained in that type of armor, then just go up the table until you get to one you're proficient with. Then your armor class will be 10 plus your dexterity plus the armor bonus plus your proficiency in that armor. Some armor also has a strength requirement. Make sure you meet this requirement. You can watch my video on equipment for more info. You could also buy an adventurer's pack, which costs 1 gold and 5 silver, with a bunch of useful items like a backpack, rope, torches, and rations. Yummy. Now you have enough info to fill out the rest of your character sheet. Remember, your d20 bonus will equal the relevant attribute modifier plus your proficiency bonus. Your perception is your wisdom plus your perception proficiency bonus. Your fortitude save is constitution, reflex is dexterity, and will is wisdom, plus their respective proficiency bonuses. Your skills will also all have predetermined attribute modifiers which are written here, but you'll probably just want to look them up yourself. Then choose a name, and you're all set to go.